What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. He's done pointing for now. For now. Doesn't mean it won't happen there. But 10 seconds ago, he was done. We'll see what happens in the next 10 seconds. Guys, do us a solid. We're going to be talking portal, Texas football, the draft, kind of the things that you would expect us to talk about here on a Tuesday all throughout the show. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Do it just right now. Bing! And subscribe to the channel. Get notifications if you haven't already done that. And by all means, I want to welcome everybody who is piling into the Specs chat. I see you, Richard. I see you, Tracy. I see you, Money B, and Jareth, and Text Guy 2, and Uncle Mickey. We see all of you. We'll be using your participation throughout the show. And look, if you want to send a super chat, it gets our attention. I can assure you of that. Maybe the best way to get your comment and or question and or whatever you want to do it through there. Well, no, I thought we were putting up a super chat, and instead, chat just
didn't have
a regular old chat.
Didn't have one. My bad.
But you were showing it off. Let's talk portal stuff. There's a lot going on right now, Chad. Give me just a second. There's so much going on.
There's so much going on in the portal is what you're talking about?
Yes.
Well, if there's so much going on in the portal, then just take a breath, get set, and here we go.
Fight! Get over here! Finish him!
All right. And not that we're making brand new graphics, but glad we didn't make one for the guy from UCLA. Huh?
Well, it's anytime a guy can make you think of the movie Office Space, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's a tricky thing for the Longhorns. Let's get into it. So when we ended the show yesterday, Bill Norton from Arizona had committed. Savion Red is in the portal. If not officially, he will be. His intentions to do so announced. And then late last night, it wasn't reported. He reported it. He announced it. The UCLA defensive tackle, Jay Toia, never going to have to worry about having to say his name again. Like I said, I did
not gonna have to put him in an Orange Blood story very soon.
But I haven't written. I wrote that story because I had sources that had been telling me the visits through the weekend had gone really well. And there was a little bit of like reading between the lines on these things. So to be careful, I had a story ready to go when Norton committed, and I was ready for not gonna have to remember his name, Toai. I would have gotten it. I promise you. I'd have got hooked on phonics if needed. I have eventually come around on all of the names Yamuzalo. Like I've come around on the names that I eventually have to learn, but it can be a chore. He announced last night that he was going to stay at UCLA. So that happens on the eve of TCU defensive lineman Dominic Williams, but with the A at the beginning that is almost like Damonic, which is, makes me think of movies with the devil in it. Damien. Right. Anyway, Dominic will be visiting Texas starting today. Jason Sukumel spoke with him earlier today, confirmed that official visit is going to be beginning today. I reached out to some sourcing this morning just to kind of get a feel for what was that with Toia.
You nailed it the first time.
From now on.
Trust me, first gut. You've nailed it twice the first time, and then you mess it up the second time. Toia.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
the sense, so Williams is the preferred. Now look, some of this is going to sound like the kind of thing you say when you lose a guy. So, like, for the record, I hear you before I even say what I'm going to say. I totally get what you're going to be thinking, and who knows? Like, maybe my sourcing is saying what he's saying because, like, that's the thing you say. I don't know. All I'm going to tell you is I've been told that Williams is the guy, that he's the number one defensive tackle in the portal that the Longhorns covet the most. This visit that begins today has been on the books since the weekend. Everybody's kind of known he was going to visit Oklahoma first, and then Texas was scheduled second, and then there are visits after Texas that are in the works as well. So the sense I got was that they conveyed to the UCLA kid that they were really interested, but that in whatever way they felt like they needed to, they wanted to wait before making a decision with him. That, however you tell a guy you're our backup choice to Williams, that we want to see. What they didn't want to do is take a commitment and then cut themselves off from being able to have Williams as an option.
Okay.
They want him to go, wait a minute, you guys have just taken how many defensive tackles? Like, where do I fit in? So the UCLA kid goes back to UCLA, maybe sensing, not liking the fact that he wasn't a number one priority. Regardless of like the details, ultimately all that matters is that kid decided he was going back to UCLA. It now makes the recruitment of Williams paramount to what the Longhorns want to accomplish in the portal, because he's, make no mistake about it. Like, he's the guy that's left. He's the guy they're hosting today. He's a guy that I've been told they really want. And, the source I spoke to this morning confessed that if they don't get Williams, the lack of urgency that maybe they put in for the UCLA kid may turn out to have been like a misstep like that. It's a little bit of a high wire act when you're recruiting multiple guys for the same spot. One comes before the other. There's a preference that you want to stay true to, and it does make things a little bit complicated. But it makes, again, Williams begins his visit today. Oregon's a school that he wants to visit. LSU, Missouri, all schools with healthy NIL things going on. And I think what's really interesting, Chad, is that people that are familiar with the recruitment of Williams are pretty open about the fact that he's letting people know NIL matters. And there's a sense on the Oklahoma side of things that they put together a very healthy NIL package. I think Texas will probably be able to do the exact same thing. Will this come down to who's the school that wants to pay the most amount of money? And that's the thing that matters most, is a real interesting piece of this recruitment. It may very well come down to who has the biggest NIL offer for him. That may be the thing that sways what happens from here. So I think every school that hosts him, including Texas starting today, will have to understand that there's a business piece of this decision, that it's not romantic. It's not about, I get a chance to go play for a team that could win a national champ. That'll probably play a role, right? Oh, Austin's an amazing city. Like, that may be something that's a benefit in this recruitment of Williams, but there is a sense that NIL will be first and foremost at the forefront of his mind when making this decision. So how does Texas approach that? They've not been, while they're a school that is, I think, considered an NIL heavyweight. Think about being able to get Adonai Mitchell away from Georgia last year. He goes into the portal, but there was great anticipation really for a couple of months that thing might happen. Will Texas pay the most amount of money? I guess ultimately is the question. They didn't with Jabbar Muhammad, who came out from Washington in the portal, and I think today is a guy that Texas probably wishes that it had on its roster. We'll get to that in just a second. They'll have to beat Oregon. They'll have to beat a Missouri program that just took Oklahoma's best young offensive lineman, largely because of NIL. So this will be an interesting, I think, test case for Texas and NIL and what they're willing to do, because I think this guy understands his leverage. He's a really good defensive tackle, and he's put himself into a marketplace where there are very few options for teams that could use a player just like him. And as it turns out, Oregon, LSU, Missouri, there's even been some talk that A&M is trying to fight their way into that, and that would be one more school that carries an NIL Death Star to some extent. They can shoot planets with their NIL programs. So, Chad, it'll be really interesting to see what happens here. This isn't, I think, cut and dry. I think the Longhorns are optimistic, but I also think they were optimistic about Jamar Muhammad at one point. And then he took that Oregon visit, and it was like, well, no, we're not going to quite go to the levels that Oregon was willing to go. And I think that was a big part of why Jabbar Muhammad is an Oregon Duck right now and not a Texas Longhorn. The thing that Texas has to – I think Texas feels really good about the NIL system that it's created and how NIL dollars change. You know, a guy like Jaden Blue a year ago was fourth-string running back. Before the end of the year is over, he feels like a guy that's proven that he's a must-keep, and his NIL situation changed greatly. We haven't seen the Longhorns really lose starting-level players like we've seen at school after school after school all over the country. Alabama loses Isaiah Bond, right, to Texas. That's a guy that's considered one of the better SEC players at his position in that conference. And to be fair, the Saban situation – a little unique, but Georgia loses Adonai Mitchell a year ago, and that was a guy that was starting on a national championship team. So this is happening everywhere. Texas has been the rare program that's kind of been able to keep all of their guys that haven't wanted to go shopping on the NIL front to see if they can do better than Texas. Texas has been able to keep guys happy. If you go out though, Chad, and from an NIL opportunity standpoint, give something or make something available to Williams that other players in the program who've, spilled blood on the field and helped Texas get to a national semifinal, and this guy didn't do that, does it upset the apple cart? I think Texas as a program has not been willing to upset the apple cart at the expense of getting a single player that they think can change the fortunes of a season. Do they view that about Williams? Do they think, you know what, if we're going to break the system, it's going to be for a guy like that? Is he a guy like that? Or is he really good? Or, this is one of these things that I think NFL teams have to do. They have to figure out like how much better of an option is he than the other guy, and how much is that worth? On the NIL front, I think we're somewhat there, and this is the age that we live in 2024. And I think there are 1-hour conversations that we could have about 10 different tentacles that spring from this story.
A lot of folks already jumping in the Specs chat. We appreciate you. Up over 400 in the Specs chat while Ketch was talking. More questions coming in. We will continue to discuss it. Let me hit you with a little sinus and snoring specialist, because they can hit you with breathing and resting better and feeling better. They can get rid of your allergies forever, for good. You don't have to worry about it. I used to have to deal with allergies at least twice a year, sometimes more. But since 2017, I'm not dealing with that anymore. They can deal with sleep apnea issues. It is the very latest in ear, nose, and throat. Dr. Slaughter, over 20 years of experience. You want to go with the best when it's something like this, and that's exactly what I did. It's what you should do. They're right there at Palmer and Mopac. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live, and just go talk to them. You've seen these commercials about something called Inspire for people that don't quite get along with their CPAP sometimes, or even people that maybe are just getting started. Ask them about that because they do inspire as well. So check them out. It's really easy. 601-0303 is the number. You can do sinussnoringent.com or just click that QR code. Sinus and snoring specialists, feel clear, rested, and healthy. So again, this name Dominic Williams on campus today, Catch, correct? He's in Austin today for, we assume, 24 hours or so?
Yeah, I mean, these official visits can last up to 48 hours. So
okay,
if he chooses, the thing is, and I guess he doesn't have to be rushed, but he wants to take 3-4 more official visits. And maybe it doesn't quite come to that. The thing is, here's where I think this thing is. And there's a lot of chat in the specs chat. Like Mark says, OU didn't pay up. That's why he's not committed. Stoopsify jumped in and said, that's not true. Oklahoma offered as much or more and would have matched anybody's offer. Here's where I think we are. I think we're at one of these auctions where, remember in the movie Groundhog Day, when they're auctioning off Bill Murray, and it's like $5, $10, $15, $20. And then old girl's like $197.54. And then everybody kind of looks around the room and goes, I guess she's going to take it. I kind of think that's where we probably are. And I think, Stoopsified is like they would have matched anybody's offer. We'll find out. Because I think it feels like a little bit like an auction where it's like, well, here's what we've got. We've got $500,000 for you. And then another school's like, hey, I think we could put together a package for like $600,000. I think everybody's waiting to see if in these hundreds of thousands, if somebody comes out and goes, $1.2 million. And then everybody looks around and like says, we're not going to do that. Or like, then it happens. Then it's like, well, we've got 1.25. And then it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think we've seen a lot of these in college football. This is still new in this portal era. And I certainly don't think the Longhorns have ever been involved in anything like this. If anything, you think back to the O'Shawn Mathis recruitment a couple of years ago, where it had been rumored that, well, Nebraska just threw out such a big offer that Texas decided not to match it. I had been told by somebody that I ultimately have come to trust very much, that's not what happened. That there was never really a position where Texas needed to match anything, that kid had just come out and said, I've decided to go to Nebraska. Did Nebraska give him a good NIL deal? Most certainly, but it wasn't as if Texas either didn't do something or didn't react. And I think that it'll be fascinating to see what happens here, because I do think in the Muhammad situation that Oregon slapped a big offer down and said, anybody want to beat this? And everybody kind of bucked out of that competition, bowed out. Will that happen here? I don't know. I'm not close enough to the Oregon situation to know how big of a priority this is, what they're willing to do, what they want to do. But we know the schools involved. I mean, I don't know that Missouri's to be underestimated on the NIL front. It seems like, I don't know whether or not they've got NIL money to hang in the next 10 years, but Missouri certainly has become well enough to do in the NIL world that they can hang right now. LSU, same thing. So I think we're in uncharted territory with the recruitment of Williams right now, because this will test, I think, the Texas resolve. I don't think Texas will offer the most amount of money. I think what Texas will do is say, you know what? We're not going to offer you this. We're going to offer you this, but we can give you guarantees that that's what you're actually going to make. This isn't going to be funny money. It's not connected to the amount of jerseys and T-shirts you sell. Like, I think they'll feel like we have a big boy. We've got a big boy responsible. We can prove it that it gets paid kind of an offer. And you're talking about something that's a little bit monopoly money. Maybe it's worth that. Maybe it's not. But like, we're not going to match that. I think there have been moments where those types of scenarios could unfold. This one feels a little different than the other ones. And again, Sarkisian has come out and said publicly, this is a major area where we're trying to get better and we need to get better. We're not good enough yet. You've almost showed your hands a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, if you're Williams and you're from a negotiation standpoint, if he is a lawyer or an agent or whatever, I've got that quote like, hey, do I need to read what Sarkisian said on Saturday to you guys? Because he said it, and we can be the solution to the problem, but it comes at a cost. Really fascinating to watch from the outside looking in how this ends up playing out. Because, Chad, I think no matter how it plays out, the teams, schools that don't get Williams, publicly the vibe, I think, among the fan bases will be, well, they just didn't do enough on the NIL front. Whether that's true or not, I think that will be the suspicion. If he goes to Oregon over Oklahoma or Texas, there, I think, will be a sense that there was a level that Oregon went to that those schools didn't get to. Whether that's the actual truth won't matter. I think that's the way people will think about this.
Up over 500 folks in the Specs chat. We always tell you, you put us a super chat in there, it'll go right to the top, just like Oscar did. $4.99. What did Sark do to Bo for him to leave our DT room in shambles? Catch, from the discussion, from the talk I've heard you and Jason Sukamel and others talk about with terms of Bo Davis. I don't know that it's anything that was on purpose, but I know that you might agree with would you agree with shambles? Is that how you would describe the DT room?
No. Shambles? No.
Okay. Obviously in need of some talent at this point. Obviously in need of portal.
I think substandard is probably more accurate. Like, you know, the way that I think the coaches, they're not destitute, but I think this coaching staff is viewing everything that they're doing through the prism of, we think we're good enough to win a national championship. If this is our weakest area of the team, and they believe that it is, we can't let this be the reason why we don't win a championship. You know, and you know, a year ago, they could have made it to a national championship game, and who knows, maybe they just get beaten like a drum ultimately when it's all said and done. But, you know, maybe we look back at it and go, God, that secondary was 115th in the country. And you might say, did we know going in that area of the team was not good enough? That there was upside, that we liked some of the players, but we were desperate enough to try to go get Jalen Catalon. We knew that we needed to do something. Did we do enough? And I tell you what, like, if Steve Sarkisian and his staff had those thoughts a year ago about the secondary and they didn't act on it, it probably would make you a little antsy about this time next year. You feel the same way. And I don't know that happened. It's a hypothetical situation that might explain the way they view what the defensive tackle position is. They've got Alfred Collins. I think there are a lot of schools all over the country that would like to have Alfred Collins as a building block for their defensive line. But I think after you get beyond Collins inside, there's a whole lot of not good enough or haven't proven it yet at any kind of a level that probably has them concerned that, God, if we get to the playoffs, are we going to bow out because someone ran for 250 on us or we couldn't control the line of scrimmage. If we think the answer to that might be yes, like there's got to be a by any means necessary kind of approach to shoring that up. So no, I don't think it's not a disaster. It's just not good enough. And what good enough even means for a program that a year ago had the best pair of defensive tackles in the country, how do you even view that? A year ago, you had guys that are going to be NFL players, one of whom may be the first defensive player drafted on Thursday night. I think the confidence level in what they had versus what they dropped down to, I think there's low confidence, and I think that they're trying to improve that. And I think Dominic Williams is a guy that they think greatly enhances their defensive tackle viability. I think, even when you look at a guy like Bill Norton, you've made yourself better, but did you dramatically make yourself better? Maybe not. I think he's an improvement, but it's slim margins of improvement. Maybe Dominic Williams is a guy that they think is a little more than slim margins versus what they have.
Oscar, thank you for that super chat. $4.99. Give us a super chat and we will get it right to the front of the line. A lot of good chats coming in as well. Catch, let's take a breath here, or I'll take a breath. You tell them about My Perfect Franchise and what Andy can do for them if they've got an idea.
Yeah, it's real simple. You want to start living the life, living the dream, doing that thing that you've always wanted to do from a career standpoint. Andy Ledke from myperfectfranchise.net. That's what he does. He specializes in helping people get off the ground, to know what steps to take and what order to take them so that you don't get bogged down from a great idea, from a great life, from a chance to be the person that you've always wanted to be because you didn't know the details. You didn't know the order of the details. You didn't know the importance of some of the details. That's what Andy Ledke does. Text him, call him, 404-973-9901. Email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Don't let a dream not get fulfilled out of fear or out of a lack of knowledge. Eliminate the fear, get the knowledge. Contact Andy Ledke today.
Rolling through House Divided here on a Tuesday. Thanks to all the folks in the Specs chat. Quick question, Catch. We had a chat kind of getting to this. In your mind, is Dominic Williams an upgrade from Toia? I'm looking at their numbers around 28 tackles for Toia, 33 last year. The solos are about the same. Looks like they're about the same size person as well. For you, I know UCLA people are glad to get Toia back, but for you, would this be
as their best defensive lineman?
Right.
So, you have to almost understand the context. They don't have Trey Moore. They don't have Barron Sorrell. They don't have Ethan Burke. They don't have. Toia was like their guy. So
because they're getting dudes drafted on Thursday, maybe not on Thursday, all of them, but there will be a guy or two on Thursday, and they're getting a lot drafted this week. So because I've never heard Williams described as like maybe the best defensive lineman coming back to TCU. So in your mind, how are you comparing and contrasting those two players? What would you tell a Texas fan? Would this be the upgrade, or is this the best guy now that Toia is going back?
I think he's viewed as a little bit more of a playmaker, a little bit. Again, fine margins. I think that, there seems to be a consensus that Williams is the top available guy from a defensive line standpoint, but he's not Walter Nolan. I don't think he's at that level.
Right.
You're not talking about a guy that can, I think, change your season 1-loss record. And you're not talking about a guy that automatically is a first or second day NFL draft pick. What I've been thinking in my head a little bit today, Chad, is maybe whatever Walter Nolan got from Ole Miss, maybe they got a steal. Maybe that guy's value in a true open market is such, because I never heard that he got anything outlandish. But depending on what a guy like Williams is able to get from an NIL standpoint, whatever the difference is between what he's getting and Nolan's getting can't be that much. So maybe there will be a lesson to be learned from this, that over time we will learn so few defensive tackles of real value enter the portal that maybe when one does, he needs to be treated different, because you're going to get guys that are shades below him that eventually come in maybe later, and they're going to get money near him. They're going to get, there's a part of me that wonders, like, Williams might get 7 figures out of this, which is bananas. He's not that good.
That's the question that's been in my mind. We've been talking about wave 1 of the portal guys versus wave 2. You just threw out the perfect example. So you think, if Walter Nolan got X, what do Norton and Williams, wherever he ends up, what do they end up getting? Is it 3/4 of X? Is it X? Half?
I think Norton's way below whatever a guy like Walter Nolan ends up getting.
Okay.
Williams is viewed as a different type of prospect. I don't know that there would have been a huge market for Norton. There obviously would have been, but he's not viewed at the high end of what's available right now.
Okay.
And I think I saw on the Athletic or maybe an ESPN list, they had him ranked as like somewhere between the 40th and the 50th best available prospect, but that's available now. That's not a super global ranking of everything. So he might be in the 200s as a best available player in the totality of the 2 windows together. And at which point, you're not talking about a guy that's getting that kind of a money. Williams seems to be a guy that's viewed, well, if he'd been available in either window, he would have had a lot of suitors. But again, we're not talking about an All-American. So what does it mean when an honest-to-goodness All-American enters the portal? Is that quarterback money? Like, is that money we don't even know about that gets whispered about, but nobody actually knows the specifics of? I don't know. I don't know. Again, I think this is uncharted territory to some degree.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's clean up some chats here, Catch, outside the Texas thing, and then we'll get back to it. I just like this chat from a fact level. Did Chip Kelly leave UCLA? Yes, Jared, he did. And remember, it's Deshaun Foster. I'd forgotten about that until just the other day. Deshaun Foster, the former player, he is now the head coach at UCLA. And what a get to be able to get Toia to come back for Deshaun Foster. How about this one, Catch? Somebody throws in, Craig says, 3-year Aggie starting center gone. What's happening in Cesspool Station? Outside of your new nickname, Craig, I did do a quick little search. Catch, apparently there are multiple Aggie players not on the roster after the spring game, and one of them is Bryce Foster, the multi-year starting offensive lineman. He's done mainly been a center for them, and maybe he's not on the roster anymore. Craig, I don't know any more than that. I'm on the show here, so I don't know any of the other details, but might be something to check into, Catch, that Bryce Foster might be, I don't know, it may be in the portal from College Station. That'd be a surprise.
Well, from what I've been told, so this is what I heard from internet posters on Orange Bloods.
Okay.
He didn't practice at all this spring. He's on the current A&M track and field roster.
Okay.
So it could be that he's just done playing football and is just going to participate in track.
Wants to focus on, I'm assuming.
That would explain why he's not in the portal, but also not on the A&M football roster.
Interesting. Okay. And a guy that size, we're assuming 100-meter dash, obviously, right?
You know what's interesting about that, though?
Probably not.
Is that he might not be on the roster, but I think I'm not sure about this, but track scholarships for men are different than track scholarships for women. Like women are all getting full rides. And when you get into non-football, non-basketball, start getting into baseball, start getting into like golf, not as much as golf because they're smaller squads, but even to some degree, you're getting partial scholarships. And I wonder, I always heard once you've been on like a football scholarship, you can't then go to another type of scholarship. Otherwise, what's to stop any football program from just stashing players in other sports? So I wonder if he was still on the track team, like let's say next year, if he still counts against the football scholarships, whether or not he's on the team or not, I don't know. But that's a little bit of a unique situation. I mean, I can't think of many times that's happened. Maybe like David Aaron back in the day. That's all going back a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
A late 90s Texas wide receiver that I can think of that stopped playing football and I think ran track afterwards. But, for the Aggies, Bryce Foster was a former 5-star prospect from Rivals.com who, as a young player, had been really good, but hasn't been able to stay healthy. So when he's been on the field, he hasn't been really good the last couple of years. It's hard to even know who the real Bryce Foster is as a football player.
Yep.
But that was an A&M offensive line that could probably use its multi-year starting center back for another year. So, I don't know how to completely grade what that means for A&M, but, that's a disappointment. That's a guy that should be getting ready to be an NFL football player, say next year after this season, and instead isn't on the depth chart. And it leaves A&M in a position where they've probably got to find someone in the portal or maybe somebody younger, but they've got to address a pretty important piece in that offense.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, like you said, that the long-term developmental part of that's not going to be good news, obviously, for A&M, but that offensive line wasn't great last year. Like you're saying, the last couple of years because of injury, bad development, and everything. So we'll obviously keep our eyes on that one. Somebody says that Ags did get a transfer center from Utah, I believe. Rex, thank you for that. A lot of transfers, obviously, coming into A&M over the
I mean, we're at a point now everybody's doing transfers.
Right, absolutely.
You know
absolutely.
what I mean? It's so antiquated. I got to look and see what Clemson has done because surely Dabo has dipped in. I mean, everybody's doing it. Everybody's addressing problems through the portal. You might not get full answers, but you're at least getting the option of an answer. If A&M was able to go into the portal and get a center, who knows whether they upgraded or degraded a little bit, but they're not empty-handed. And that's the one thing that the portal gives. There's just no excuses. If if you're coming into a season and you're lacking bodies somewhere, it's a big failure at that point, whether it's from a recruitment standpoint or NIL or whatever would cause you not to be able to bring in bodies, because it's mainstream now. This isn't some of these schools are doing it and look at what Florida. No, if you're not doing it, you're playing college football with one arm tied behind your back.
Appreciate the heads up there on the chat. We'll get back to some Longhorn football discussion here in 1 second after I try to make you hungry with Hayes City Store. It always makes me hungry. I just had the chicken fried pork chop for the very first time. It's incredible. The grilled version's great. The blackened version's great. All three I would recommend highly. My child who loves pizza, she'd recommend their pizza too. The oven, the special pizza oven they got out there is unbelievable. If you love that good, fire oven kind of pizza with the crispy crust, it's just incredible. They've got incredible burgers. Their truck stop enchiladas are famous out there as well. And there's just so much good stuff. I'm also kind of a beer snob, and they've got a great list of about 40 beers on tap from all over the state. And it'll change up a little bit. Last time I was there, I had one of my favorite beers from the Dallas area called Sucker Punch. If you're into a fruitier kind of beer like that, they've got some. If you're into more of the hoppy stuff and IPAs, they've got that. 40 different suggestions for you. So get on out there. Hayes City Store. They're out there at FM 150 in Driftwood. Tell Travis and Tamara and the crew that we said hello at Hayes City Store. Catch, back to your NIL discussion. We had somebody channeling their KGB from Rounders. This team will always, all want to win the Natty and SEC in the first year, and boat race Aggie on the way. Paid that man his money. In terms of Dominic Williams.
I love that you just knew that movie reference.
Yeah, that's one of the few I do know. There are some I wouldn't get and it'd go right over my head, but KGB and Rounders, that one I actually know. So thank you, Teta, for that. But that thing, thank you. That's the that really kind of ends up being the bottom line here. And I know other fans are listening to you talk about it. Somebody mentioned says, Texas has the credibility in NIL. Sark needs to press the issue and use that as an advantage. Outside of the other thing we'll need to know, you mentioned Oregon earlier. The schools that have a rep as being good at NIL, being able at NIL. The issue would be, does Oregon have a good rep in addition to Texas? We would assume that a Georgia does. Has A&M shaken their rep that they had during the Jimbo era? Has Elko been able to shake any of that and tell these guys like, no, what we talk about is what's going to happen. And that was all that. We've got everything set. Because when I hear you talk Oregon, I think, oh, good Lord, they can do NIL. Have you heard anything about Oregon not being able to back up what they're saying at all?
Not at this point.
Yeah.
The thing is, Texas has only really crossed paths with Oregon a couple of times, most recently Jabbar Muhammad. But when you think about other guys that they've been interested in the last few years, Oregon hasn't been in play. So really what we know of Oregon from a Texas experience is Jabbar Muhammad. How many guys can they do that with? Jabbar Muhammad got paid. And, there's even been some scuttlebutt that reached close to like $1 million a year in NIL money. Did it truly get to that level? How short of that money? Even being slightly short of that is a lot of NIL money. I think all of these schools can do 5, 6, 650, 700,000 pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Is it bigger than that? Is it much bigger than that? It's a game of chicken to some extent. And, these coaches can all say, it's funny is you'll hear coaches say, well, we don't want somebody who's just coming here for NIL or something like that. But they'll have been in situations where, well, you offered a guy like $600,000 and he went like, at what point are you allowed to be judgy about, the levels of NIL money? If you're participating and you're just not quite going to levels that others are going, but you're still going to really high levels. I think this kid stands to, if I had to guess, and I'm just spitballing here, I bet the number for him probably starts at $700,000 a year. Now, will it go beyond that? Maybe. Because one of the things that's real hard to know is that in all, NIL kind of regressed back to more natural levels. It was a little willy-nilly a year ago, 2 years ago. You were seeing guys like Tucker Dorsey come in from Florida Atlantic or Florida A&M or wherever the hell it was that he came from. And that guy was getting like offers of $350,000, $400,000. And I think now the numbers from what I've been told have stabilized. So they were up here and they kind of gone down, but that may not exist for a guy in this marketplace at this position and at the level that he is. James Madison, thank you.
You're right, Rex. Thank you.
Florida Atlantic. Was it because Florida Atlantic or I can't even remember. Some school offered him an obscene amount of money. Maybe that's what I was thinking. Maybe it's Florida Atlantic. Somebody. It was ridiculous. I have to go back and look and see. He wasn't that good. I kind of blocked that out of my mind. So I don't know. Like, I think for what I talked about, Bill Norton's a pretty good example. I think the market for a guy like Bill Norton stabilized this year in a healthy way. Like, not all these guys are getting crazy sums of money. But Williams might. Because, again, guys at his position who are as qualified as he is. And he's not an All-American. This isn't Even Walter Nolan's not an All-American. But we really haven't seen a 9 or 10 out of 10 level defensive tackle hit the portal. I think Walter Nolan's probably like an 8 who has the ability to be a 9 or a 10. And I think most of these guys are like 6.5, 7s. They're good. They're really good. They're really good players. But these aren't difference makers. But in a world where no difference makers ever become available, and only a very few very goods do, like maybe people just lose their minds when almost really, really good players hit the portal. You know, we've heard that the quarterback market is crazy. Maybe the defensive tackle market, where one exists, is getting there too. Again, that's why I'm really fascinated to see which direction this takes. Does he take all 5 visits? Does he stop after 3 or 4 and feels like he knows what he wants? Does somebody come in and just knock the doors down? Is there any way something other than the biggest offer in NIL becomes just as big a part of the decision? I think everybody's trying to get the pulse of this recruitment, and what's coming through right now is NIL, but we'll see. I think Texas will hope that you're staying close to home. You're going to the flagship program inside the state of Texas. You're going to get a chance to compete in the SEC, which not everybody in this conversation can say. I mean, Oregon can't, but Oklahoma, Missouri, LSU, those schools can. You know, so I think we're just in a wait and see situation. The other thing, and hold on.
I was about to ask you if you're seeing the same name I'm seeing that the chat wants to talk about.
What does the chat want to talk about?
Catherine's pointing out Michigan State's Derek Harmon back in the portal.
The thing about Harmon,
Teta throws in 6'5", 359. That's a big human.
He, in the last couple of years, so he's a 4th-year junior. He played in 12 games last year and made 10 starts. 40 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks. He's a good player.
It sounds like Norton's numbers. Sounds like Norton's numbers to me.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about a guy that was all Big Ten. We're not talking about a guy that was honorable mention all Big Ten. We're talking about a guy that was a pretty good player a year ago. And those guys are getting a lot of money and a lot of attention right now. There's probably a reason why he's in the portal. He's probably talked to somebody that he knows, a peer that's like, yo, this is what you can get. And Michigan State doesn't have a big rep in the NIL world. So maybe he wants to test the waters a little bit. This guy's not as good as anybody else they're recruiting.
Yeah.
He's not as good as Williams. I don't even know if he's the best Michigan State guy that's in the portal. There's another guy that's in the portal whose name escapes me from right now, but I think Oklahoma's taking a look at him as a backup to Williams if they don't get Williams. But, you know, like, to be clear, this guy started 10 of 12 games last year. He's not one of these guys that's so good that he started every single game last season and then was a plus player. He was a pretty good player. And that's kind of it. So I wouldn't go crazy, but this is where we are.
Yeah.
Where people are like, Derek Harmon's in the portal. Did you hear that, Chad? Derek Harmon? And it's like, well, no.
Yeah. There's that. And then there's this chat that comes in from a Texas fan asking you, Paxton says, so we better hope Broughton doesn't leave, right? Does this increase?
Well, there's an interesting segue there. I think, because I think that comment leads to Vernon Broughton. And then there's some conversation about there might be a player or two on the current Texas roster who they might enter the portal, and part of the reason why they might enter the portal is for what we're projecting onto Broughton, which is they're looking for guys to take your jobs. they clearly aren't happy with you and they're looking for a replacement. So maybe you need to look for a replacement. I don't know that that's what Vernon Broughton is thinking or doing. Clearly he got married over the weekend, but I've been of the opinion that likely didn't just happen. He may have gotten engaged in December and they may have gotten married in April, but I doubt they waited until the week before the wedding to announce that date. It was probably a couple of months ago. I can't imagine that it was like, I just don't believe that the wedding is connected to any. I think it's easy to think that. I personally don't believe that it's connected towards a departure or thinking about the portal, but I do think there are other players on the Texas roster who maybe have had their feelings tested in the same way, where we're openly talking about, how some of these guys might look in replacing Broughton, and that Sark made the comment about the interior defensive line. And you could say, well, he didn't mention Broughton by name, but his actions, you can put 2 and 2 together and it doesn't have to equal 5. You should be able to deduct 4 fairly easily. I think, we talked about Jabbar Muhammad. What about the players that know that Texas wanted to land somebody in the portal to replace them and still might do so, still might be tempted to see what's available in the portal? I think that there are multiple things all happening at once. But I think keep an eye on this Texas roster. There could be a name or two that enter the portal that are connected in varying degrees to the portal.
Spec Chat, thank you very much for that. Thank you, Paxton. Remember, if you get us a super chat, it'll go right to the top of the list. We got buy or sell coming up. Also, before the end of the show, I'm going to show Catch, a fellow Dallas Cowboys fan, the Texans' new uniforms for this season. 4 of them for the 2024 season. We will get to that. And if you are a Texans fan, you've got a little more than 130 days. But if you're a Texas fan, you have exactly 130 days till your first game. Get the setup you've always wanted. This is the one. This is the year. What better season to finally get the badass big 70 or 75 or 80-inch TV you've always dreamed of than the season when the Longhorns go into the SEC. AV Consultations can make it happen for you. 255-8678. There's your number right there. Again, we're 130 days away from game 1, which means we're a little further away from that NFL season. Whether you love your Cowboys or your Texans or just your fantasy team, you want to be able to watch it all perfectly. They can get you that man cave you've always dreamed of, that she shed room you've always dreamed of. Ladies, is that what you really call them, though? I've never preferred the she shed thing, whatever it is. The family room, the movie room, whatever you've been looking at, thinking of, dreaming about, they can make it come true. avconsultations.com, or just call them 255-8678. They've been doing it since 1988, and we are getting a little closer to football season by the second. All right. Oh, I wanted to hit this one just real quick. Quick review. P11 jumped in and said, did Texas get a transfer? P11, Bill Norton, yesterday, if you missed it, from Arizona. That's in. Got that transfer in. Texas is sitting at 84 scholarships because Savion Red reportedly will be getting into the portal officially at some point in the next couple days. And then we're discussing Dominic Williams from TCU. He visited Oklahoma last weekend, and he is visiting Texas today as a portal guy and has some other places scheduled. But again, Catch, as you've pointed out, the first visit in these portal discussions is big.
Hey, hold on. We've got breaking news.
Okay.
I was just literally hinting about it.
All right.
Terrence Brooks, Texas cornerback, has announced via social media that he's entering the transfer portal.
Oh, wow. Okie dokie. Well, that'll change a show right here towards the end of it. Terrence Brooks into the portal for Texas. So, Catch, this is something you'd heard may happen?
Yes. I mean, we had confirmed it behind the scenes with multiple sources in the last hour. We've literally, if you've seen me distracted and typing a little bit, it's Alex, Anwar, and Jason and I all like, I don't think they've seen the tweet. They've just been talking about it. Hold on. I've made a post on Orange Bloods, but yes, we had, and now has it been deleted? No, it's up there. Okay. He said on Twitter, I want to thank God, my family, and the Longhorn Nation for everything at this time. I will be entering the transfer portal.
Whoa. Okay. Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Okay. Terrence Brooks into the transfer portal. And obviously he was one of those guys, Catch, when we talked about the spring game, there were obviously a moment or two that he had that he obviously wanted back in that spring game. Had some couple bad moments.
He had a very poor performance in the spring game. I mean, it's not good.
Yeah, he was on the business end of some of those great catches and routes and big plays we were talking about. It felt like, number 8 was kind of getting popped on some of those. So for you, does this speak more to what Terrence Brooks was and maybe wasn't for Texas? Or does it speak more to what they have at corner and what they like from Muhammad and others?
No, I think the Muhammad thing couldn't have helped the relationship. I think that, what is going on? I'm sorry. I'm a little bit annoyed. I'm trying to post this on Orange Bloods, and it keeps on not wanting to post. I don't know why. I think his feelings are probably hurt. I don't think he's been a happy player. I don't think that it helped that the spring game went the way the spring game went. And I think that's about him being unhappy and knowing that, and this is just me. I've only heard in the last hour or two that this was, and he's not the only name that's being talked about as potentially leaving in the portal. We try to do it. We really don't like to speculate specifically. We try as best we can to not, because it's not fair to the player. I mean, I can remember there was a story posted on another website this past weekend confirming that a guy had entered the portal and he hadn't. There was a report last year about Jaden Blue that he had entered the portal and then didn't. And, that didn't involve us. That's embarrassing. So we wanted to be real, guys can change their minds. It happens all the time. Look at Bear Alexander. So we were being very careful in trying to absolutely have it on lockdown that this was what was happening. But we had heard that it was happening. And, the scuttlebutt is that he was just unhappy. Why is he unhappy? Well, I don't think he's playing at a level that he wants to. I think the coaches are not only telling him that, but he can see that they've been trying to recruit a replacement for him. So I'm sure that, I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that. But at the end of the day, and I think this one stings. While they may not have been, I think Terrence Brooks is a better football player than he showed this weekend in the spring game and what he showed last season at times. The problem with Terrence Brooks as a player is that 4 out of 5 plays, he's really good. But on his bad play, when his bad play runs around, it's usually for a big event. Mm-hmm. Usually giving up a big play, as opposed to on a play where I wasn't as good as I needed to be, nothing happened at all. The ball went elsewhere. There was a sack. Quarterback threw it to a different guy. Like all of these different results on your 1 out of 5 bad plays. Terrence Brooks, oftentimes, his bad plays just led to really big plays. And I think we saw that in the spring game. That
first
touchdown pass of the game
right.
that Arch Manning throws, Brooks is just nowhere to be found. And when you look at the slow motion replays of it all, you can see he didn't know. It didn't look like he knew what coverage they were in. He didn't know what responsibilities and what part of the field he needed to be responsible for. So he just lets a guy run by him with nobody there to account for that player. And when Sarkisian was asked about it, like, hey, you guys just threw like a 75-yard touchdown pass That's kind of exciting. He was like, no, it was a pretty bad coverage bust.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah. He's like, yeah, Art saw the coverage bust and he hit it.
Yeah.
He
He didn't overreact to how well of a play the offense made. He stressed that, it wasn't when Wingo beats Black. That was like a guy beat a guy. One guy was a little bit better on a play. There was a sense that was a mental error. And for a guy who's as old as he is to have those types of mental errors, like I said, it may be that it was just time for everybody. But and it maybe needing to be time for everybody, Chad, they don't have a replacement for Terrence Brooks yet. They recruited one, but Terrence Brooks to me is the best corner that they have on the team. If they don't find somebody in the portal that replaces him, is this the move that allows for Jahdae Barron to play more outside? Gavin Holmes is obviously a guy they brought in from the portal last year who's a senior. He was splitting reps with the ones with Terrence Brooks for most of camp. So that was the other thing. Brooks wasn't not only the number one undisputed corner opposite Malik Muhammad, he was sharing those reps with Gavin Holmes. Is this the thing that allows for a Kobe Black to get more playing time? There's more questions than answers, but at this exact moment, the Texas defense just took a hit, and how they replace that will be, I think, pretty critical. We know they wanted somebody. They went after Jabbar Muhammad, who's been referenced numerous times on this show. It's one of the reasons why earlier, because I knew this was in the works, when I speculated, it makes you wonder if they wish they'd gone the distance for Muhammad.
Mm-hmm.
That when they made the decision not to go Oregon crazy from an NIL package standpoint, would they change their mind today? If they had to do all over again, knowing that Terrence Brooks would eventually depart, how would this change things? Welcome to college football in 2024.
Yeah, there's a couple chats that'll go right along with what you just said, but I want to get your thoughts on it. There's been multiple Kobe Black comments in the chat. Is this fair for a Texas fan to see this story that Terrence Brooks is in the transfer portal and immediately go, okay, it's Kobe Black time? Is that fair to the freshman?
Is it fair to I don't know that fairness has anything to do with it. Kobe Black came to Texas for that kind of opportunity.
Okay.
So I don't think Kobe Black would see it as, this is putting me in an unrealistic and unfair situation that I'm not ready for. Kobe Black arrives early in the fall in the spring, because if you come in the spring, it's because you want to play now.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to play right away, you can not arrive early and go to prom and finish out high school and show up in the summer, and you still got like 14 months before you'd ever play a game. So this name's been mentioned on Orange Bloods quite a bit. Keep an eye on Tacario Davis from Arizona. He was second team All Pac-12 last year at cornerback, and there have been rumors of him in the portal for months. And as a matter of fact, it was a story going into camp, was like, hey, Tacario Davis is going to actually go to Arizona's spring camp and not automatically go into the portal. So I think if he entered the portal, it's a little bit like Bill Norton. We could have told you Bill Norton before Bill Norton ever entered the portal. He's a guy that's been talked about. Tacario Davis would be the best of these Arizona parts that Johnny Nance, the new co-DC linebackers coach, has a connection with. If Tacario Davis enters the portal, I would have to think that Texas would be all over him.
Still got a week, by the way. We sit here on the 23rd. It's a week to get in to the portal. Again, Terrence Brooks into the portal today for Texas. Teta threw out this chat earlier right about that time, and then Catch mentions the name, so I thought we'd throw it up. Also, Notre Dame's Micah Bell mentioned here, a very modern kind of chat. Thank you, Teta. As soon as he hears Terrence Brooks, he's throwing out the names of corners that he hears might be interested in the portal. So we'll keep our eyes peeled.
I think Davis is an obvious one because, again, you're talking about a guy who's already been associated at the thought of entering the portal. He's got Johnny Nansen connections. We've seen 2 of these Arizona players on last year's Arizona defense already enter the portal and end up at Texas. You know, I think there's smoke there. It remains to be seen whether there's fire. But, you know, that's a young man that wouldn't shock anybody in Tucson if he were to enter the portal.
All right. Thanks to everybody who was in the Specs chat. Up over 700 folks in the Specs chat. Let's take a quick breath and let Specs let you know what they can do for you. And then we'll get you more House Divided. I think we got buy or sell coming up here. Hang on.
You're needing Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
All right, Catch, do you still want to do buy or sell as planned, or does the Terrence Brooks thing change your day a little bit?
No, let's get to it.
All right. You want to go first or second?
I'll go first today.
All right.
It's funny. I have a Terrence Brooks question in my buy or sell.
Do you now?
That'll tell you that alone will. Because we were going to get, you know, we got to the Terrence Brooks part of the show, and I was trying to hem and haw and hint about names where I was like, there are other guys who had players recruited at their position. You know, I tried to hint at it. So I was prepared for this. Buy or sell number 1. The Longhorns need to break open the piggy bank for Dominic Williams.
I'm going to buy that because I think they're one of those programs that feels like they need to do that. I always say B Texas. I think that's a B Texas kind of thing. You don't want to feel like you got outbid for a guy. Texas fans don't want to see that dude go play at Oregon or, God forbid, another school in the SEC and have him look really good. So, yeah, B Texas, bust out the piggy bank. If that's a guy that you think can help you, then yes, pay him.
Buy or sell number 2. Texas fans have undervalued Terrence Brooks.
I think that is a buy to a degree. Yes. I think there's a little bit of an undervaluing there, but you laid it out perfectly. I think there's an inconsistent of all the positions in football where inconsistency will kill you, will just maul you. It's that one. I mean, we can all see that. You meant that first touchdown. He's the reason that play took off. And it's just you got to be so damn good at that position. But overall, I do think he's a better player than Texas fans are going to give him credit for on the way out the door. Yes.
I agree. Buy or sell number 3. Sorry, the English on this one's not great.
Okay.
I'll just read it as I meant it instead of how I wrote it. Daniel Jeremiah, our guy, Move the Sticks, has Christian Jones rated number 55 in his final draft rankings, his big board. You think Texas fans are underestimating his loss to the lineup?
Yeah, I'll buy that as well. And it's kind of a compliment to him. I mean, offensive linemen are supposed to be, when they're great, sometimes you don't notice them. And, fans don't spend a ton of time like overworking themselves, thinking about like their right guard and right tackle if they have a right-handed quarterback. Sometimes they forget about those guys. They just do their job and all of that. But what Christian Jones turned himself into was a pretty damn good player. I think Texas has good offensive linemen coming back, but I think they're going to need to – I think there's probably needs to be more recognition of what he was when he left.
What if Christian Jones gets drafted before Jatavian Sanders and Tavondre Sweat?
Oh, wow. I think one of those I think
like both of those could happen.
I think the before Sanders is good. I think that's going to happen. I'm not sure about Sweat, but now that Sweat's probably slipped a little bit, maybe that is wild to think about.
There's a lot of 4th round type talk around Sweat.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's ranking Christian Jones as a second round talent / value / rating to have him at 55. We all think Christian Jones is going to go in the third round ish.
Mm-hmm.
Just the world can be quite an ironic place, is all I would say. Buy or sell number 4. I haven't yet talked this out. I feel like it's a little bit of a therapeutic question for me.
Okay.
Buy or sell. The Sixers lost to the Knicks last night was Dallas Cowboys level of losing a game. They're up 5 with 28 seconds to go.
Yeah.
All of the stuff that happens.
I'm going to buy it. The Sixers are interesting now. They don't have a player or coach that makes them feel like a drama series, like a soap opera anymore, because they used to have that. They don't have that to me anymore, but that's still a soap opera loss. And then the Lakers did it too. The Lakers did it right after them. To be up, Lakers had won 37 in a row when they were up 20 in any game. You can't blow that lead in an NBA playoff game. I don't care where you're playing. I don't care who you are. You don't blow 20-point leads. And to your point, the Sixers cannot blow that game. I watched both games thinking the same damn thing. The road team cannot blow this lead. If they do, it is over, and both of them blew it. Yeah, it's just it did have a Cowboys vibe to it. They just don't have enough soap opera stars to make everybody else feel it.
I don't have this written in because I didn't get to question number 5 before the show started. Buy or sell number 5. I am at a point with the Sixers and Joel Embiid that my feelings will not be hurt if Embiid asks for a trade to go to a team that gives him a better shot at winning a championship. Buy or sell. You've ever felt like that with a great player at one of your teams?
Are we just talking NBA or any sport?
Any sport.
Oh, God, yes. Buy. Are you kidding? I feel like there's 2 or 3 Dallas Cowboys like that every damn year. In a way, you know who I thought of when you laid that out? DeMarcus Ware. That's who I thought of. My wife just told me that DeMarcus Ware was on Masked Singer recently. Got unmasked last night. I don't know if it was last night live or whatever. But he is a guy I always think of as I'm glad he went and found a team that was better and got a Super Bowl because he deserved it. And I wish Witten could have done it. And I wish others could have done it. Yes, I've had that happen multiple times in multiple sports, but those are 2 Cowboys that come to mind.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a franchise player, and I'm talking about before it happens. Like, I think when Ware went to Denver and won the championship, we were able to compartmentalize that pretty easily and say, I'm happy for him. I'm glad he was able to do that. But that's different than while he's still on the team thinking, you know what? If he leaves, I get it.
Yeah.
It's different. Embiid is a franchise MVP player, and I've reached a point where I won't be mad at him if and when it happens.
I got you. Okay. How about Gerald McCoy with the Bucks? I felt that way about him.
Might qualify. Yeah, he was certainly that.
I felt that way about him. I felt that way for Texans fans when J.J. Watt was in Houston. I felt like, man, y'all are going to waste.
It's easy to do it with someone else's player.
Oh, no, someone else is easy. Yeah, that's an easy one to do it. But, hell, let's be realistic. I might, if you made me had the discussion, I might feel that way about CeeDee Lamb today. If he went to another NFL team, I think it'd be a better chance to win it all.
You understand? I can't be mad at you, CD. I get it.
Right, exactly.
All right, give me your questions.
All right, here we go. Let's start with Texas. Buy or sell number 1 catch. Jonte Cook held his own on Saturday and is on track to be wide receiver number 1.
I'll say buy, but I don't think it may be wide receiver 1 the way we view wide receiver 1. I think it will be wide receiver 1, but I don't know that the separation between wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 4 is gigantic. So, I don't know that means 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns wide receiver 1, but I do. Yeah, I will buy the question.
Gotcha. And of course, he already has the jersey number 1, but it's a different discussion. Buy or sell number 2 catch. Jordan Washington will make a huge catch for Texas in 2024.
Sell. Huge? No. because he's the third tight end. And how many huge catches are there in a season? That's a subjective question because, there might be somebody who only the plays at Alabama were huge last year. Mm-hmm. Maybe there were no huge catches in the OU game because they lost that. So huge gets defined in a quirky, subjectable way. But in the way that I view huge, I'll say sell, but he certainly has potential huge catches in his career forecast.
Gotcha. All right. Buy or sell number 3 catch to the NBA. 11 games into the playoffs. The best team you've seen is Denver.
Sell. I think the Celtics so far have been the best team I've seen so far in the playoffs. I mean, the Nuggets just pulled a game out of thin air last night with a Jamal Murray shot. It's a tough question to answer. Most of these series there's only a handful of series that even played 2 games. Mm-hmm. But the Celtics were dominant in their first game, and I kind of feel like the entire Eastern Conference is playing for the right to get beaten 5 games by the Celtics.
Fair enough. All right, Catch, let's hit some birthdays here at the end. Buy or sell number 4. It's John Cena's birthday today. He is in your all-time top 10 in pro wrestling.
Sell, but a lot of that is I wasn't a big fan of the John Cena era. So I respect him because I know how hard the business is, and to be as popular as he was I didn't view it live. I didn't watch a lot of what he was going through. So I think I would understand if somebody was like, this guy's in my top 10, but he's not in my top 10.
Gotcha. Okay. I would definitely agree with that. And finally, Catch, buy or sell number 5, Lee Majors hits 85 today.
Wow.
You think he did more episodes of The Fall Guy than the $6 Million Man?
I think the $6 Million Man, I think that series ran shorter than The Fall Guy. I think The Fall Guy ran 5 seasons, and and they were because I have The Fall Guy on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a full, I'm going to go buy. There are more Fall Guy episodes than $6 Million Man.
You are correct. 112 episodes of The Fall Guy and 99 of $6 Million Man. Closer than I thought.
Me too. Because I thought one went 5 seasons and I thought the other one went 3. Do you know how many seasons there were?
I did not see the season. I think each ran. I mean, they just had the years listed. I did not see how many actual seasons of each show ran. Interesting. He did the same number of episodes of Fall Guy that he did for the Big Valley, the Western that I grew up watching with
5 seasons of $6 Million Man.
5 seasons of that. Okay. And the Fall Guy went what, 6 or 7?
I know it went 5, but I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. By the way, are you going to see this Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt Fall Guy movie?
Yeah, I'm in for that. 5 seasons of The Fall Guy.
5 of The Fall Guy. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm in for that too. It looks too good. It looks way too good. And when my kids saw there was a Taylor Swift reference in there, she's in. She's ready.
I'm in. They have my money.
Yeah, she's going to check it out. All right. That is how we buy or sell. Catch, before we get out of here, would you like to see the Texans uniforms for 2024?
Sure. Why not?
All right. Let me see if I can do this for you here. We will do this. We will do this. Make it a little bit bigger for the kids. And here we go. You can still hear me, correct, Catch?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to start with the home unis. You will recognize this, obviously. They're not doing much changing here. They're making the logo a little shinier on the helmet, but they're just going with a nice dark blue there. There's you. Look at the home stuff. So pretty much the same. Their aways, they're going with the new whites. So you get a little peek at that. There's your new away gear for the Houston Texans with a little bit of the numbers a little different. The horn on the side. The next 2 are the crazy ones, Catch. The alternate uniform, the all red, is going to get talked about a lot. Check this helmet out. Got the horn on the side. You like this idea?
Yeah, I kind of do.
They're going to go all red with it as an alternate. And catch the one I think that'll get the most discussion is the last one. The color. Hang on. We had some cops pull up there. More videos. The Houston H-Town look. Wait, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Did it go away? Did I mess it up? Hold on.
Messed it up.
I messed it up. Hold on. Where is? Oh, wait, it just went down the page. Sorry. I just needed to go down the page. We got videos popping up. They're trying to sell me stuff. Get down there, Chad. Here we go. The Houston H-Town look. They did a big reveal. They had H-Town stars. They got a video with Bun B doing the voiceover for it. So that's going to be their Color Rush H-Town tribute. What do you think?
I mean, I don't really like the H-Town ones that much. I don't know that they're incorporating the blue, the baby blue enough. Like, you know, if you look at that guy that's got his hands on his shoulder pads, he doesn't have gloves on. So, like, that doesn't look like anything because you can't even see the way he's standing. You can't even see the decal on the helmet.
Yeah.
So, you know, in order to really like accentuate what they're doing with the old kind of Houston Oilers blue, guys have to wear gloves.
Yeah, I agree with you. That one is one of those where I think they get themselves in trouble when they go too much color all the way down. They'll do the same thing on the jersey, same thing on the pants. If they used other colors, if you mixed in a little more blue in places, I agree. It would be even better. But
I think the problem that they have is that they've got a division rival that if they were to really lean into that blue too much, it's just looking like a Titans uniform.
Yeah. No,
So I get what they're trying to do. And while also conceding, you know, it's hard not to see even the H on that helmet and not think of the Titans. Now,
Yeah.
I like the all reds, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
I'd like to. The thing that I get when I look at the Texans uniforms, they don't have a signature, like iconic uniform. So I don't find myself longing for something that they did in the past, which makes it easy for them to be Oregon if they want to be. They can change up their uniform, and I don't have an attachment to anything that they've ever done before. So why not? Like I feel like why not with those all reds? Might it be too much? Maybe, but it kind of also makes me think of Star Wars and a bunch of like the guys in the all red. So
yeah,
no, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, they've done some interesting ideas with the red helmet in the last couple of years anyway, and now they're really pushing hard into it. So Texans fans, there you go. They've done the unveiling. I think you can get your gear out there of any of the 4 kind of mock-ups. So really 3 different helmets and then 4 different uniforms for the Houston Texans.
That red one's not really good for the Crips, though.
That's right.
It's hard to be a Texans fan on game day when head to toe they're all in red.
That's when you wear the H-Town blue stuff. If you really need to go that way. That's how that works.
A lot of red is all I'm saying.
There's a lot of red. Yes. That's going to remind me of when Texas Tech would do that shiny, shiny red look where the helmet's red and the jersey and the pants and it's like, oh my God, fellas, every inch of it doesn't have to be red. Arizona does that too. All right, Catch. I'm just scanning the chat here to see if we have any super chats. I don't see any. Anything else we need to mention today?
I would go back to the Terrence Brooks deal and say it is a hell of an opportunity for Kobe Black. I mean, that guy might be not now, but in 5 months, he might be your second best corner. And he might have been that way. That might have been the case whether or not Terrence Brooks decides to stay or not. You know, maybe Texas has that guy already on campus. I don't know that they'll sit with a pat hand and lean on that, but you know, force feeding Kobe Black might not be a terrible thing. That he's so talented that, you know, maybe speeding up his development a little bit will make him better and better sooner. And, you know, I don't think he's got to do much to be better than Terrence Brooks. And I think, you know, if Terrence Brooks was unhappy with the Texas coaches, and Like that was a relationship that feels like maybe reached the point of this needing to happen. Makes Saturday so weird because in a vacuum, if you just watch the spring game, you'd come out of it going, what, Terrence Brooks is unhappy? We're unhappy.
Right. But in the post game, you made a reference to Terrence Brooks, and you said two words that I kind of laughed at because I thought, all right, Catch, I don't know. And I believe those words were point shaving. Wasn't it, Terrence Brooks?
I said it would make more sense that he was point shaving than just about anything else you could like. That opening touchdown looked like a guy that was trying to give up a touchdown.
Maybe now it all.
I'm not saying that's what he was doing.
No.
I'm saying it makes more sense that he would do that as opposed to like being lost and not knowing what he was supposed to do and not knowing what the defense, like, you know what I mean? Like I expected he has the bare minimum. It's one thing to be beaten physically. You know, you think about the throws that Penix made a couple of times in that game. I think there was one in particular along the sidelines where Brooks had great coverage and was beaten. You're like, okay, well, two guys made a great play. It happens. You can understand that. When you see a guy 20 yards away from the receiver and just completely lost, it's like, how did that happen? You can understand losing because a guy makes a play on you. It's a lot harder to understand incompetency. And there were a couple times on Saturday that Brooks looked incompetent on the field.
Yeah, that's fair. We got somebody reminding everybody to press that like button. Thank you, Mitchell. We appreciate it if you do that. We also appreciate you liking, subscribing, and getting notifications. Thank you to those that got the subscriber number up to 18.8 thousand. I did notice that happened. Crawling slowly up towards 19,000. Let somebody you know that's not, and maybe you're not. You know how sometimes you're on Twitter and you realize, oh, I'm not following that person. I didn't even realize that. That might be you. So we would appreciate you checking. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Like, subscribe, and get those notifications. And to Ben G, I totally agree with you, even though I'm a Cowboys fan. H-Town jerseys are ugly. Not that part. I kind of like those, actually. Just sad they can't get their old colors and logo back. Ben G, I agree with you. Catch, I think there needs to be a game at some point. Texans versus Titans. Winner gets the Oilers jerseys forever. I think that's what we need to have. Or a draft pick or something. The Houston NFL team needs to be able to wear those oil derricks, not the team that's in Nashville. That's dumb.
By the way, Longhorns down to 83 scholarships.
Yeah, that would be the math, because 84 with Norton in had one extra, so now two extra spots available as we sit here. And by the way, that discussion continues this afternoon on the Modcast, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4:00. The fellows will be putting their heads together on this one, obviously. Terrence Brooks into the portal. What does it mean? What's next for that position? What's next in the portal for Texas? And Dominic Williams, the TCU transfer, is also visiting campus today. So it's all portal stuff as we are 1 week away from the portal window closing in the spring, and we're 2 days away from the NFL draft. Thanks to everybody for liking and subscribing and getting those notifications. Thanks to damn near 700 folks in the Specs chat as we get ready to close the door. Until tomorrow at noon, we are house divided. Yes, Jeff was wearing a bunny shirt today. Nice identification. Well done. Well done. He's worn it before, actually. It's not the first time he's worn the bunny shirt, but we're glad that you're looking at the details too. Everybody take care of yourself. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Look at that bunny. It's a bunny. It's like a cross. It's like a
psycho bunny.
It's a psycho bunny. Not just any bunny. It's psycho bunny. And we do love that. Y'all have a good Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.